What was your childhood like as a kid? And
I was raised in an upper middle class home. I was Dennis the Menace on steroids. There were times that I remember being 5 or 6 years old and Christmas time, and the postman was going around delivering mail, a week or two before Christmas, and I'd follow behind him and I'd steal the mail out of the mailboxes. At that age, my dad would have his friends over to the house, and they'd come over, and he had a pool table in the front room, and back then everybody smoked and drank Budweiser. And I remember running to the refrigerator and grabbing the beer, and I'd bring it to one of his friends, and I'd pop the can and I'd take the first drink. And at the end of that soiree, I'd be picking the cans up and I'd take the last drink. It started at a really young age. It wasn't looked at back then the way it is now, right? We know that's wrong. And that really is where it started. I learned to drink at home. But as the years go on, right, at about age 11, I think, or 12, I was coming home from school and I was stealing booze out of my dad's alcohol bottle, and I'd replace it with water. And that really is when it started. And then I was smoking pot at 12. And then at 13, I did my first line of cocaine.
Oh, wow. How's your relationship with your parents today?
My mom and dad are my best friends.
So
They're not mommy and daddy anymore.
Sure.
I risked their lives more times than you could count. I got so deep into the lifestyle of dealing drugs, running guns, sending cash home. I pulled my parents into my lifestyle, right? And I don't think they realized what I was doing. I don't think I realized what I was doing. But when you're a drug addict, you don't care. You do whatever you got to do to get what you want, right? You go to any means you have to. What a rotten SOB I'd become. I've said I'm sorry to them 10,000 times. I didn't mean it once.
Yeah.
The best apology you can give anybody is changed behavior.
Amen. My best gift to you, Dave, is my self-development. So let's go back to your childhood a little bit. When is the first time you land in prison?
I went to prison, I think, the first time when I was 20 or 21 years old. And my first prison term was a 2-year term. Got out after that prison term. The day I got out, my buddy came to pick me up from prison. His name is Paul. Rest in peace. He's no longer with us. He picks me up. We leave the prison. We're driving down the street. He said, Dave, reach underneath the seat. I reach underneath the seat, and I pull out this box, if you will. Everything's inside it. I'm getting loaded on the way home. Never go to parole and never check in. I lasted 59 days, got busted again. Another pretty ugly bust, right, that included a lot of drugs and a couple more loaded firearms, right? And I got a 5-year prison sentence. I got out for 60 days, got busted again, got a 6-year prison sentence, stayed out for 4 months, got busted again, and got a 10-year prison sentence. So it was a 2-year term, a 5-year term, a 6-year term, and a 10-year term. Now, I didn't do all of that, but I've been sentenced to 23 years of prison time and did roughly 15 of those years.
Wow.
So, a big chunk of my adult life was spent going in and out of jail and prison. But what happened was, after that 4th prison term, right, I get out of prison, right back to the same behavior, right back to the same lifestyle. And here's the sick part. I call it hedonistic adaptation. I started to be okay with being in prison. When I would go back to prison or go from yard to yard, Dave Durocher's here, they'd shoot me over soups, coffee, whatever I needed. I felt like I was important in there. How in the hell can you be important in jail and prison? Here's how I define it. There's reputation, there's character. What was I building on the inside?
Reputation.
How was I doing that?
Through manipulation, violence.
By doing the wrong thing.
Doing the wrong thing.
I had a reputation built on doing the wrong thing. After that 10-year prison sentence, I lasted 4 months, and I was in Huntington Beach, California, weighing up some drugs, and I was upstairs and, looking out that window, and I've told you the story before, and there's a helicopter up there.
You're getting ready to do your thing, but you hear this helicopter in the distance.
It's just way, I just happened to see it out the window. It's just way up there, sitting there. Well, it was watching the house.
Yeah.
It was waiting for me to leave. But when I got ready to leave, I didn't think anything of it, right? But then I remember her telling me to leave the weapon, leave the weapon, leave the weapon. And it didn't dawn on me. I thought she was just looking out for me, right? But it did. It flipped my gut. But I didn't believe that that's what was really happening. That's what happened. It's still to this day one of the craziest things I've ever been through. That helicopter came all the way down, was shining its spotlight in the car. It was like 8:30 at night. The cacophony of sound between the sirens, the commands to pull over, that spotlight shining into that vehicle, it was really crazy. Now, I've got wanton disregard for public safety. I'm going up on sidewalks. I'm going through red lights. I'm pushing cars out of the way. But my mind is just reeling as the cops are chasing and all the lights. It was just a crazy, crazy time. I'm getting ready to make a left-hand turn. As I approach that intersection, the cops are parked there at the intersection, right? So I see that this is probably going to end real bad. Do I stop and let them arrest me, or do I push those cars out of the way, use my car as a battering ram, make the left-hand turn? And I opted for B, right? Using my car basically as a battering ram. And I knew that they're probably going to shoot me, or at least I hoped they were going to. It isn't that I wanted to die, LT. It's that I no longer wanted to live. I knew when I got busted I was going back to prison forever. So I pushed those cars out of the way. I made the left-hand turn. Cops did the pit maneuver, pursuit intervention technique, rammed the back of the vehicle, spun me out up on an embankment, pulled me out of that car at gunpoint, gave me one of the worst beatings I've ever had in my entire adult life. The last thing I remember hearing was, "Stop, stop, we're going to kill him." It's a strip mall where that car ended up, so people were watching. They had to stop.
Yeah.
It came down to 22 years, right? And Judge Pacheco at that time was very, very clear. Mr. Durocher, you're getting 22 years, whether you take a deal or whether you go to trial. So I wrote a place called Delancey Street. Delancey Street's been around since 1971. It's widely known as the gold standard in this country for many years as it relates to TCs, therapeutic communities. It's a minimum 2 years long. It's the only place that a judge would send somebody like me, right? Because they're not going to send me to a 30, 60, 90-day model. So when the judge said no, I decided to write him a letter. And I got yellow pad of paper, and I wasn't busy in my cell at night. So I wrote him 4 pages, and I told him my life story. And I said, "Your Honor, I've already been to prison 4 times. It didn't work. Not that it's designed to. This is not your fault." I said, "If you send me to Delancey Street, 2 things will happen. Either I'll split and get kicked out, or you can lock me up for the rest of my life, or the next time you see me, it's because I'm coming back to say thank you." And I told him my whole story, and I pled guilty to all my charges. I said, "Your Honor, I am going to plead guilty right now on paper to all of my charges. Ankle irons, waist irons, and handcuffs." And I'm sitting in this metal cage. And the judge comes out, takes a seat on the bench, and he says, "Mr. Durocher, against my better judgment, I'm going to give you the opportunity of a lifetime. I'm going to allow you to go to Delancey Street. You're going to plead guilty to all of your charges in my courtroom. You're signing a deal today for 22 years. I will suspend that sentence. When you get kicked out or when you split, I've got you for the rest of your life. Get out of my courtroom." And he let me go to Delancey Street. Now, Delancey Street is 2 years long. I stayed in that program for 8.5 years.
Wow.
Why? Because I could. That's the difference between a treatment facility or any other organization that gives you a prescribed day that you're done. When you do that, you basically sign our death warrant. When you get someplace and it's 30, 60, or 90 days long, and on that 30, 60, or 90th day you have to leave, nobody's ready that day. They're leaving because they have to. At Delancey Street or at the Other Side Academy, there's a minimum requirement to go, but you can stay as long as you need to. So I stayed for 8.5 years in Delancey Street. The first 2 years to beat a 22-year prison sentence, and the next 6.5 because I fell in love with the process. And for the first time in my life, I fell in love with me.
Really?
And what I mean by that is I started to feel good about who I was becoming.
Yeah.
I started to feel good about what my capabilities were in Delancey Street and how I'd found a way to help other people get from where I was to where I'd gotten, that I had influence that could be used for good. I fell in love with helping people.
That's beautiful. So a lot of people that watch and listen, a lot of people that follow your guys' stream and know you went through what they've gone through. Yeah. And a lot, and worse than a lot of them. But then your behavior still has to change after that.
Yeah. No mistake. I did not write Delancey Street to change. I wrote Delancey Street to change my address. I knew it was the only place that existed that could get me out of the jail and into a treatment facility. I just knew it was my only shot, and they let me go. But once I got there, Delancey Street did their job. My peers and people that got there before me put their hand in my belt loop, grabbed me, held onto me. I would have left 1,000 times from Sunday inside that first year if I didn't have a 22-year prison sentence over my head.
Wow.
That suspended sentence anchored me there.
We're creating drug addicts in this country. Not only are we creating them, when they're in trouble, then they get help. They got 30, 60, 90 days if they have the money and insurance to actually go through that 30, 60, 90-day change. Long-term programs and therapeutic communities, the more that I research and study, are the most efficacious. If we all out there know this, what do we do?
At the heat of my addiction, if you just take me and lock me up in a jail cell for a year by myself, I am in isolation. I have no contact with anybody. They come and they serve me food through the slot of the door. That's it. That's the extent of my interaction with people. So I'm not in contact with anybody. During that year that I'm in there, what am I?
Clean.
I'm clean and sober.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah. Who cares?
If we don't change those behaviors, we'll return back to drugs 100% of the time. If drug addicts who are listening to this now, who have been clean and then dirty, then clean and then dirty, then clean and then dirty, then clean. Should I go on?
Yeah.
You get it, right?
Yeah.
Clean and then dirty, clean and dirty. If you look at the pattern, it's because the behaviors haven't changed.
Yeah.
Right? You're still behaving the same way, still lying, still manipulating, even alcoholics. So when I got to Delancey Street, I was a liar, a thief, a manipulator. I was violent. I was angry. I didn't even know what I was angry about. And what I learned there was what's more grievous, the consequences of anger or the causes of it, right? I made my life so much worse because of the consequences of being angry and the decisions I would make. It's crazy how it all played out. But my peers called me on my behaviors. And what they did is they told me the damn truth. They didn't sugarcoat anything. You want it sugarcoated? Go buy a damn donut. They told me what an egomaniac I was, what an absolute tyrant I was, what a parasite in the community. They told me the truth about myself. And so many people today, probably a lot of people listening to this right now are going, oh my God, you can't do that. That's shaming. Stop it.
Yes.
You don't think I should feel a little shame for the choices I made in my life? You wonder why the problem's getting worse. You can't say that. That's going to hurt their feelings. Do you think I cared about anybody's feelings while I was out there dealing dope to parents who were bringing the dope home, dropping it for their kids to find, driving away with a carload of drugs while they were under the influence? Did I care about people's feelings there? Running around with loaded firearms, taking the police on a high-speed chase, causing people to be in an accident. Anybody could have died. Did I care about people's feelings? We're so deathly afraid to tell people the truth out of hurting their feelings. How many times do I have to tell people, if you want to help them, tell them the truth.
Yes.
Tell them the damn truth. Otherwise, all you're doing is patting my rear end and telling me it's not my fault. I have a disease. Oh, Dave, it's okay. Relapse is part of recovery. You just signed my death warrant.
In the Proverbs, it says that wounds from a friend are better than kisses from the enemy.
Good gosh, absolutely.
You know?
When the drug addict criminal becomes the protected class, we will lose our community as we know it.
100%.
When you look at Portland, and whoever's watching this right now, if you're not paying attention, just Google it and look what's going on. We've lost that city completely. We've turned it over to the drug addict criminal. We've turned it into this disease. And whether it is or whether it isn't is irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
Do you want some meth right now?
No.
Clay, would you like some heroin? What did you both just do?
Made a decision.
You made a choice.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it is a damn choice. I chose the first time I used. Now, granted, I was a kid, but every time I got clean and sober, I chose to use again.
Yep.
And sometimes I might have been clean for a couple years while I was incarcerated. When I chose to use again, I made that decision while I was clean and sober. Every single drug addict listening to this right now that has a pulse knows this. When you're a drug addict, you have two options. Continue to use, ask for help. Every one of us knows help's available. We all do. We choose not to ask.
Yeah.
Ultimately, everything that happens in our life is a choice. I didn't start off selling 5 pounds of meth a day. I started off selling a 16th a day. People don't understand what we're capable of doing. And they want to make excuses. Well, it's not their fault. They have trauma. I get it. I did too. But when I became an adult, I knew the difference between right and wrong. I chose wrong.
Yep.
If you're a drug addict, you're committing crimes to support your habit.
Yep.
If we do not put public safety first, we are missing the mark.
Yes.
Because I am a drug addict, it is not permission to be a criminal.
No.
Period.
Agreed. But now you're not like that no more. Neither am I. Praise God. You're the executive director of the Other Side Academy.
When you get to the Other Side Academy, we don't take any money from the government. We have social enterprises that generate our revenue. The minute I got to Delancey Street, I became part of the solution, not the problem. I'm responsible for my own recovery. I'm responsible to work on those social enterprises that generate the revenue that helps me and the others that are on their way there and don't even know they're going yet. Why should somebody else support an adult who's making poor choices in their life?
Agreed.
Why?
They shouldn't.
But that's the culture we live in. And to me, to some degree, it is the liberals, right, who believe that, right? It's wrong. It doesn't teach any accountability.
Right.
The reason why TCs, therapeutic communities, do so well is because of that accountability component. That's why any organization that thrives, it'll always, if it's thriving, it'll always have a high accountability component.
Big Pharma is creating, they're creating customers.
Jeez.
They're not creating cures.
Yeah.
Nobody, like even doctors today, they treat symptoms. If I have a headache, I take a Tylenol or an aspirin, right? I'm not Tylenol or aspirin deficient in my body. There's another reason why my head hurts. That was the problem, and that's what should be taken care of. But now here's some pills that'll make the pain go away. I think they're going to allow the powers to be recovery communities to make an effect on people until we reach this precipice of where we start ruining their income.
This is fascinating. Let's say I break my leg. If I snap my femur and I've got a compound fracture and everybody looks at that x-ray, it's the same thing to everybody.
Yeah.
Now let's go to therapy.
Okay.
You're my therapist.
Yeah.
I can go to you and opine about what I'm going through
Yeah.
and tell you exactly what you want to hear. You're going to diagnose me with PTSD, bipolar, depression. You're going to give me a cocktail of medications. Then I'm going to go over there to this therapist, opine about the same thing. They're going to diagnose me with anxiety, maybe schizophrenia or whatever, something else, and give me a different cocktail of medication. The bottom line is, I know exactly what to tell you to get the drugs I want.
Right.
Unfortunately, for some reason, I do not believe in doctors when it comes to that kind of thing.
Me neither.
Because they have no clue who the hell I am,
Right.
what I'm capable of. I know what to say to get the medication. We are so over-medicating people. I feel, here, take these. I feel, here, take these. We did an interview the other day at the Other Side Academy. He said when he got here to detox, the doctor told him, oh, you'll never make it there. I'm going to prescribe you Suboxone for 2 years. He said, no, you're not. I am going to make it. He's been with us for a week now. He's doing great.
Awesome.
I'm not saying people don't require medication, but to the degree that we're giving it to them, we live in this culture where Big Pharma is manufacturing all these drugs. If you think for 1 minute that all the doctors out there that can prescribe these medications are stuck to their computer screens reading about all these medications that are coming out and the effects that they have and knowing exactly what they're diagnosing people with and what they're giving them, you're crazy.
Yeah.
We are creating drug addicts in this country. Now, when I was out there running amok, right? When I was out there running from the law, what was I suffering from? Anxiety.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The minute I got arrested, what was I suffering from? Depression.
Shame, guilt, fear.
When I'm running from the law and I know they're right behind me and they're looking for me all over, that I'm anxious.
Yeah.
When I get arrested, I'm depressed.
Yep.
Do you think medication's going to help me? Believe me, I can go to the therapist in the jail and tell them exactly what I'm going through. They will give me medication to try to make me feel better. We're so damn stuck and trying to make people feel better that we're killing them.
Yep. So I guess that's the message that needs to be preached first, because we're not even close to hitting their pocketbook yet. The Big Pharma, the people that don't want change because they know they make a lot of money off of it.
Another way to put it is, if you want to be a brain surgeon, who's going to teach you how to do it?
Other brain surgeons.
If you want to be a mechanic, who's going to teach you how to do it?
Good mechanic.
If you want to learn to hit the 100-mile-an-hour fastball in the batter's box, who's going to teach you how to do it?
Hitting coach.
But in this field, you send someone to college, they get a degree in social work, and they think they're going to be able to help me. No lived experience. And in my opinion, there's nothing worse than an expert with no experience.
Yeah, I agree.
We're currently working with about a half dozen other cities around the country, helping them either transition from the current model that they've been using into a TC, or actually helping them start a TC. We really like to put a bench. We like to refer to it as a bench in every city that needs one. But it's difficult to replicate this model because the person who goes to school can't run it. The counselor can't run it. You wouldn't have any idea how to manage a house full of 125 felons and drug addicts and all the babies. It's hard.
Giant babies.
It's hard to manage. Yeah, it's hard to manage this population.
Yeah.
You have to have been a drug addict, lived on the street, been to jail, been to prison, been through a TC, been in some leadership roles to be able to manage that. So it's hard to replicate because the leadership is the most difficult thing to find.
Tell us about the Other Side Academy in Salt Lake, how we can find you, who you are, how long it is, and the benefits of somebody staying the 4-year magic number.
The Other Side Academy is located at 667 East 100 South in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's a minimum 30-month requirement, minimum 30-month. It's residential. It's completely free. If you come to us and walk through our front door and take a seat on the bench and we interview you, you start right then. You need nothing. If you write us a letter from the county jail and we interview you and you get a letter of acceptance, then the judge can sentence you to us in lieu of a very lengthy prison sentence, like my own, 22-year sentence. They can sentence you there. Those are the two ways you can find us. If you're out of the state and somewhere in the country, call us. We will interview you. The beauty of the model is it's long. It is structured. It is real. It is honest. We tell you the truth, and you don't have to leave on a particular day, even at day 30, which is 2 years.
You take a chance on this person if you accept them. You get them some new clothes. They have food. They got meals. They're instantly trained how to clean, communicate. You're taking a big risk on them, and it's absolutely free. Free to people that are walking in. The distance between their new life and their old life, there's so much in between. It's those new memories that have just been built,
Here's how I say it. When I got to Delancey Street, could I change in 1 day?
No.
Could I change in 2?
No.
Could I change in 3?
No.
After 27 years of living the lifestyle, 30 days later, I'm not going to change then either.
Mm-mm.
As soon as I leave Delancey Street after 30 days, I'm going back to my same neighborhood.
It's your habits.
Yes. The more time you put between your old life, right, and your new one, the more of a gap is there, the harder it is to return to.
Yep. Huge.
That's why that time, the dosage effect, is so important. When I left Delancey Street, I had a whole new circle of influence, whole new thought processes, whole new patterns, whole new behaviors. You can't do that in 30, 60, or 90 days. It's impossible. Nobody changes in that short period of time.
Right.
They get clean and sober, but they don't change.
Yep.
You need time. 4 years seems to be the magic number for someone who's in their late 20s, early 30s, or 40s.